tax office about, tax season is coming up, for 2018. Remember, I've always said that if you're doing your taxes in 2019, it's for 2018. So you're going to be doing, the upcoming tax season is for 2018, but it is processed in 2019. So therefore, you need a list. We know that there are a lot of changes that's coming about, but we're going to tell you what you need to take in, because it's going to be probably kind of confusing in the offices as you go in this year because of all the changes. The process, it will be a lot slower because you have the new tax law changes, and you want to make sure. We're going to have a list of questions. We talked on the last week about how to find and seek out a reputable tax preparer. We're going to have some questions that you might want to ask that person when you're inquiring their services, so you'll know that you'll have a pretty educated and reputable person that's able to do your taxes and able to handle your tax situation, because everybody's tax situation is not the same. So we're going to go over the things. Okay, you're getting ready, you're preparing yourself. The tax season is coming up. You got to get ready to go into the office. So therefore, you need a list of items. You don't want to go in the office and don't have all of your items with you. When you go in, you want to be able to process your return, find out what you owe, or either find out what you're going to get back. And that's the reason you go into the tax office. You're, like I say, it's going to be pretty busy because you got a lot of new tax law changes, and the people that's actually processing the return might not be fully educated, so it's going to take them a little bit more time to do your tax return. So you want to be fully prepared when you actually go in and get those taxes done. So if you have a pen and a piece of paper, get ready, because we're going to give you a list of items that you need to take in. We're going to run through this list pretty quick. If you have questions, we are on Facebook Live, we are on Instagram, and we are on YouTube. You can send us a question through any of these avenues, and we'll be able to answer those questions while we're on air. The list that you need to bring in, you want to make sure you bring that W-2. Let me back up a little bit. You want to make sure that you bring your ID. You need a valid ID. A valid ID is a state identification card, driver's license, or ID card, or passport. That works too. You want to make sure it's not expired, because if you're doing a bank product, last week when I said bank product, a lot of you might have not knew what I was talking about. But a bank product, and we'll talk about it a little bit more a little later on, a bank product is when you go get your taxes completed at the tax office or at your tax preparer, they will offer you at the end of the process, they will ask you, I would ask you, how quick do you want your money back? Okay. You can opt out of paying any fees or whatsoever in getting that money back by just mailing it into the IRS, or just a direct deposit, and just wait the full amount of time, which if the full amount of time is basically still if you pay for the process. But remember, when you do that, you're going to have to pay for your preparation fee up front if you don't do a bank product. Like I say, a bank product is a product that they're going to offer you where you don't have to pay any money when you complete your tax return. The money and the fees for the tax return will come out of the refund, okay? So when I say bank product, that's what I'm talking about. That's they might call it a refund transfer, because they can't call it, certain terminology that they cannot call it now, because we're not in the business of doing loans. So we had to back up off of that. So they call it a refund transfer. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. When you have your valid ID, it can't be expired. In order to receive that bank product, it can't be expired. So you have to make sure it's not expired. So that's what you want to make sure. Okay, now everybody's on the return. Dependents, spouse, or significant other that's on the return, you have to make sure you have the Social Security numbers, okay, for each and every one. And then make sure that you have the correct name, especially that last name. because the IRS actually, because if you did a tax return and your first name was spelled wrong and you was wondering how did that get through, it's because the IRS only looks at the first four of the last name and compare it to the Social Security. Okay, now that's the way they've been doing it, but they might spread that out a little bit because of identity theft. But I know if you ever had one that your first name was spelled incorrect and it went through anyway, that was why, because they look at the last name but the first four letters. So the first four letters of the last name, compare it to the Social Security card. So Social Security number. So you have to make sure that your Social Security number matches your full name. Okay, we'll just say full name. Okay, because if you're I know the Hispanic population, I was trying to think of the right name, Hispanic population, they have where I have an opportunity to have both names, their father and their mother's last name, which is, I think it's pretty unique. So on their Social Security card, some of them might have two last names. So you have to know whether that's a hyphen name or it's a full name, okay? So you want to make sure you have a copy of that Social Security card, or for the children for sure, okay? For the children for sure, you have to have that to put them on your tax return. But the taxpayer should be asking for that, because we have a lot of people giving other folks children, and you don't want to do that. Carry all your own children, because you had them, you feed them every day. Make sure you carry those children, because eventually down the road it'll catch up with you. So just do the right thing. Like I always say, do the right thing, and it'll come out right down the road when you meet up with it again. So you want to make sure you take Social Security card, valid ID, all the income information. Your income might be a W-2, a 1099, miscellaneous, that's self-employment. Also, if you do self-employment and you don't work less than you made less than $600 with a particular company, they might not send you a 1099, okay? But you are to report all of your income. If you only made $400, report that, because if you work with two or three, or let's say if you only made $200 with one, and you work with another one, you made $300, therefore you made $500, okay? So now you have to file a tax return. If that was all of your income, you still have to file a tax return, even though the company that you worked for paid you less than $600, but you made at least $400, that means you still have to file a tax return, because that's considered as self-employment, okay? So if you made over $400, that means you have to file a tax return, because it's considered self-employment, okay? So you want your 1099 income and then your other cash income. Let's say it like that, cash income, okay? 1099 INT, that's interest on bank accounts, interest on stocks, but it will say 1099 INT. So when you get stuff in the mail and they say tax document, make sure you don't throw that away, because you're going to need it, okay? So that'll be a 1099 INT or a 1099 DIV for dividends. So you might receive some dividends from stocks. Or if you have a company, you receive dividends from that company. So you want to make sure you keep up with that. 1098 interest, that's interest on the house, okay? If you have a house, you're buying a house, you're paying interest unless you paid your house off. Or I don't think nobody have a house at zero interest. If y'all do, y'all let me know, okay? Let me know who your loan officer is. But I know you can get cars at zero interest, but I don't believe you can get a house. And I'm a realtor. I was out showing houses today. I'm a realtor, so. But anyway, make sure you have that 1098 INT, and that's for the house interest, okay? Then you have a 1098T. If you have children, or if you went to school yourself, you should receive a 1098T. That's the tuition that you paid during the time that you were taking classes. That's a deduction for you also. So make sure, and like I mentioned before, if they did not give you a 1098T, if you have a log-on account, student account, you should be able to go in and get your tax document for 2018, and that should be one of them. But the number that you're looking for is a 1098T, okay, for education. 1099G, that is for unemployment. If you receive unemployment from your local state, they will send you a 1099G, okay? And that will, and if you did have taxes coming out of that, it'll show your taxes coming out, but you'll still receive that. Make sure you take that in, even though you had taxes coming out, still take it in and let them put it on your tax return. It's still going to show that you had withholdings, and that's going to go on and make a play in your total withholdings for that tax return. Also, that 1099G2. 1099G2, that is for gamblings. If you have been to, I don't even know where they at, but anyway, if you did some gambling, some extracurricular activities, okay, Choctaw, okay, Oklahoma, I know Vegas, if you went to Vegas and you gamble, either way it go, if you get one of those forms from that, I'm not going to say that, but if you get a form from gambling, make sure you take that in, because that has to go on your tax return, okay? Make sure you take that in. Also, 1099C. If you get a 1099C, that is cancellation of debt. Anybody that had a credit card and they had to cancel more than $600, they're going to send you a 1099C. Yes, you need to take that in when you get your taxes done. 1099C. That's cancellation of debt. Make sure you take that in. Also, 1099SA. If you sold a house, you're going to receive that. Okay, make sure you take that. All 1099s, when you get them in the mail, is part of your tax return. Okay, make sure you take it in. Now, it's a possibility, even though you sold a house, there is an exclusion for selling a house at a certain amount. So if the house was worth less than $250,000 for single, you have to. The IRS don't know that until you tell them that. So when you bring that form in, they're gonna ask you questions about the sale of the house, how long you live in the house. You have to be lived in the house at least 2 years. So they're gonna ask you all the questions so you can exclude the capital gains on that. It doesn't become capital gains, but the income that extra income equity that you receive from selling that house is tax free. But you have to answer the exclusion question as long as it's below a certain amount. Okay. Now, I don't know if they changed that in the new tax law, but before it was $250,000 for single, $500,000 for married, filing joint, the exclusion. So, but your tax preparer and your tax advisor should be able to answer that for you. Okay. If you have a business, you will have to wait until you receive your Schedule K-1. Okay. Schedule K-1 is generated from your 1090. No. Schedule K-1 is generated from your business, okay? If you have a S corporation or a LLC partnership where you have to file a 1065 tax return, it's going to generate a Schedule K-1. You take that Schedule K-1 because this is pass-through. It's a pass-through entity which is passing through to your 1040. So make sure you take that in with you when you do your taxes, because they need that information on there. Also, 1099B. 1099B is from stocks. If you have stocks, if you do a day trading, if you have stocks in a 401k where they actually rolled them over or did some transactions for you, that's going to show up on a 1099B. You should get that in the mail also, and make sure you bring that. All other income that you might have, like jury duty, winning the lottery. If you win the lottery, it should you should have a form for that also, but they're going to ask you a question. Your tax preparer should be asking you a question if you won the lottery also, so that information. But if you won the lottery and you my customer, I'm going to already know that. And I pray that you already be done blessed me. But that is one of the forms that you have to have. Let's see. If you didn't, this is a good one. Home buyer's credit. Okay. If you remember in 2007 and in 2008, they were giving home buyer credits. The first credit that they gave, you had to pay it back. And then you can pay it back, I believe it's $500 each year, okay? You pay it back, but if you have not paid that off, they need that information, okay? Because I'm telling you, if you go into a new tax person that never did your taxes before and you forget to tell them about that first-time home buyer credit that you received, when you process that return, the IRS is going to get their money. They're going to get that $500 and send you your refund. It will be less $500. So therefore, and there is a log on that you can do on irs.gov. If you receive this credit and you don't know how much you paid in, you can actually log on to irs.gov and go into and type in for search new home buyers credit, and it has a system or I'm trying to know what I'm saying. But anyway, you can type in your information and it will come up and show you what a database. They have a database with all of this information in it that you can type in your information and it'll show you how much you already paid, okay, and how much you have to pay, your balance. So it's a way that you can go and see it also. And that's what we do for our clients. If they mention about it, I say, okay, hold on a minute, I'll let you know, because I had one that thought they had paid it off and they hadn't paid it off and they still have some more to go. So we was able to pull down the amount that was paid and the amount that they will have to complete paying. Also, if you had an opportunity to adopt children, take that information in, because there are credits for that, okay? There is a adoption credit. So if you were blessed to adopt some children this year, make sure you take your information about your adoption in. Miss Linda, do you have anything else to add to my list that I might have forgotten? I believe that was pretty well everything that I can think of. Oh, also businesses. If you have a business, okay, you want to make sure that you take in your total income. If you're doing a DBA, that's your self-employment income, you want to make sure you take in your total income all the income that you made, not the income after you pulled out your expenses. You have to take your total income in and say, okay, this is what I made doing hair. This is what I made doing babysitting, okay? Take all of that in, the total amount in. And then on the next thing you give them is, this is what my expenses was from babysitting, supplies from doing hair, traveling. I had to travel over to my client's house, okay? If you have an office at home, that's going to be deductible. The smiles are going to be deductible. So make sure you take all of your expenses, all of your income, okay? And also rental income. I have a client, I'm kind of smiling because I had a client, he probably see this, and he say, well, Miss Jackson, I ain't got no job. But he have like at least 7 or 8 rental properties. I said, well, you do got a job. You're a landlord. So if you have rental property, that's your self-employment income, y'all. That's self-employment income, okay? So if you have rental property, same thing. Taking all the income from the rental property, okay? They're going to be putting this on what they call a Schedule E, okay? But it's going to have all the information for the rental property. It's going to have all your income, and then it's going to have all your expenses, okay? So you can offset that income. Also, while I'm right here, if you have a house, if you have rental property and you own your personal home, okay, you have your taxes and your interest, okay? But do not mix the taxes and interest for the rental property with your personal, okay? When they ask for your taxes and interest, For your 1040, just give them the information for your personal home, okay? But then when you get to doing your rental property income, that's where you're going to put the taxes and interest for that particular property, for each property individually, okay? Because that's going to be a tax deduction for you too. Okay, so that is, I believe I pretty well covered everything on that part when it comes to for your 2018 tax return, which will be processed in 2019. The total list of items that you need to take in, I believe we just covered all of that, and look forward to helping each and every one of you. If you call me, I'm going to ask you for these things. But if you need any more assistance in knowing what to take, you can always go to irs.gov and make sure that you have the items that they're saying that you're required to do. Also, while I'm right there, if you do not have all of your information, like if you work on a variety of jobs, or if you have a lot of 1099 work that you've done, you might, now the 1099 work, sometimes it takes until March to get that into the IRS, but your W-2 work is already there. At the end of the year, they have those totals. So they should give you that no later than January 31st. They have until then to mail it out. But if you have 1099 work that you work for, you might want to wait until March in order to do your tax return, because some of them are slow about getting that in, and you don't want to file your tax return and don't have all your income, because you end up getting a letter, nice little letter from the IRS. So you want to make sure that you have all of your income before you file. And I believe that's it for the list of items that you need to take in. So we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back. We talked about reputable tax preparers last week, and we're going to have a list of questions that you need to ask these people before they do your taxes. All right, thank you.
We're out.
And we're going to come back on Facebook Live. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back, guys.